Ugandan girls working in United Arab Emirates. We're also looking at how all that has been going. We see that every year, tens of thousands of Ugandan women leave their country to work abroad, particularly to Gulf states such as Saudi Arabia and Qatar, where they work as nannies, cooks, and house helps. But exploitation and abuse is rife, with many falling victim to trafficking, serious abuse at the hands of fake recruitment agencies and unscrupulous employees. So we want to listen to especially Gordon Murangira, who works with them. We want to listen to Ivan Bwowe, who has had to deal with the issues these girls go through. And Miriam, you are at the center of activism. We want to listen. How can we help? How can we achieve what we have, planned for? Said, like, we need to fight for their rights. We need to make their working environment more acceptable. And we also need to enact laws. Our governments have been trying their best, I can say, but what's on ground, first of all? Maybe there are certain things we are missing. Miriam, you did mention we have Miss Sophie in place of somebody else was supposed to join us. That's Sharon, who's working in United Arab. Okay. I want to listen from Gordon. Gordon, are you there?
I'm here, Lynn. I can hear you.
Perfect. I would love to hear from you. Give me a picture of what you know so far. You have said you've been working directly with these people, with these sisters and brothers. What can you tell us?
Thank you so much, Lynn, for hosting us today. Protocol observed. Greetings, everyone. My name is Gordon Murangira. Happen to be Ugandan who is here in the UAE. Been here for some time now, about 4 years. So I'm very well versed with the situation, what is going on here in relation to the employment and the situation through which our girls undergo as they try to make a living. It's quite complicated. The situation is quite complicated because there are so many stakeholders involved. It is not just the employer and the employee, but there are so many other parts that make up that vehicle that hasn't been so nice for our girls. When girls come from Uganda and go to these countries to look for greener pastures, of course, like any other human beings, they expect to, be able to be treated like human beings for starters. The fact that slave trade was abolished, so everyone who goes away from home and goes away to work, they expect to be treated as employees. And the arrangement between the employees and the people they work for, the employers in this case, should be a streamlined arrangement where everyone takes part. It shouldn't be a one-way thing, like let's say the agreement that is signed between the employer and the employees only favors the employer, and the employee, nobody cares about how they live and what happened to them. Now, I said there are so many parties involved in this kind of setup because the people, these girls of ours that come from Uganda and go to Saudi Arabia, go to Oman, come here in UAE, go to Qatar, go to Turkey. These girls do not take themselves there. There are some people who come in names of companies, some masquerade as companies, some just come as individuals, some just lure them. They take advantage of the fact that our country is in a very bad situation in terms of employment. We have a high rate of unemployment of the youth. So because of that, these people, these selfish people who come in their individual capacities, some are in the names of companies, take advantage of these young girls and promise them heaven and earth in of work away from home. And the girls, because of the situation they are in, they end up agreeing to these conditions. until when they reach where they're supposed to be taken, and they find whatever they was told verbally was actually not what they're going to experience. For starters, for me, I would call it human trafficking in this case, because someone who uses their individual capacity and helps someone, a person, travel from a country to another country without going through proper channels, I would call that human trafficking. So these girls are trafficked from home into these countries without proper consent, because first of all, like I said, the situation is they are in a bad situation, so they want to go. Anything that works moves for them. So they end up moving them without having to know what they're going to do, and they find themselves here. Now, here in the UAE, we have had to encounter on several occasions girls that have either escaped from their bosses in their houses, have escaped, and they find themselves on the streets where they don't have anybody to help them. I can see Madam Brendah here and Madam Sophie. These are my witnesses, because these are the people that I am with here, that we have been able to confront, to be able to be faced with such conditions, to face some of the girls from our country who are in those conditions. So what happens is these girls come on verbal agreement to these houses with the employers. The employer signs a certain contract, which is in a language that this girl cannot understand. Either it is English or it is Arabic. Some of these girls are not very versed with English. They cannot interpret an agreement. They cannot know what they are signing. So what happens? These girls are brought from Uganda through those illegal means. They find themselves here in the UAE through some illegal companies as well, because I want to believe these companies are not registered. The last time we tried to follow up one of those companies, we found actually that this company doesn't exist. And now this local person who wants someone to work for them in their house, take care of kids and do the washing and cleaning, would come to this company, which is fake, get this girl, sign for them, pay some money, and take this girl. This girl goes to a home where they are rich people, so she expects to be treated like a person, being given food. Then before you know it, she eats once every 24 hours. Because the owner of now who becomes like the owner of the slave would have signed a contract without the consent of this girl, because she doesn't know what she was signing. Where in the conditions were, she will eat 1 meal per day. She will work 18 hours out of 24 hours. She will do this and this and this. So they give her too much work that she cannot do as a human being. Nobody works 18 hours. A normal human person cannot work 18 hours. But these girls don't have a rest. So she comes to this big house, a house that has over 10 people or 15 people staying in, the father, son, and the the parents and their kids. So they normally are extended families, but staying together. So you find you have to clean about 10 bedrooms in a day. You have to wash thousands of plates. You have to wash thousands of clothes, and you cannot do this work because under normal circumstances, if this person got to know the arrangement they were preparing for her before she came in to this house, I'm sure they would not have signed the agreement. But they come without knowing what they're signing, without knowing the terms and conditions, and they find themselves in a situation where they cannot be able to live as human beings. First of all, you're not feeding properly. Secondly, you're being overworked, and you're being underpaid. Now, where does the money? These companies and this other person who smuggled them in are all beneficiaries of this, because let's say, for example, if this lady that has come through is being paid, let's say 800 dirhams, which is 800,000 per month, the other company would be taking almost half of that money, and the other half is taken by the other person. So you find the people that are earning from the sweat of this girl, it's a chain of those. Now, there are so many cases like this. Lynn, I cannot say all of them. There are so many cases. I've been able to confront some of them. We have been able to see some girls that need help, and there's nothing you can do, but you have to help them because they're Ugandans like you. you know. So what I think has been the major problem which has caused this is the laxity and the porous borders of our country, the government not being very specific in addressing these challenges. For example, if the government, I don't know whether really the government, because as much as we have tried to make sure the government is aware through the embassy, we have not really gotten any feedback that is positive that I can present to you now and say, we tried this and this worked out. We tell them, because on several times that we have met them, we try to explain to them what these guys are going through. The girls also, explain to these people what they are going through, but there has not been any substantial solution that has been given to these challenges. So, to cut all in short is the government needed to address this from the government. It should be government and the government having to sit and come up with a fair contract, a fair agreement between the worker and the employee, rather the employer and the employee. So the government must get involved and be sure that this contract that this lady is signing, first of all, she must first understand it. Some of these girls didn't study too much that they would read too much English, and they don't understand Arabic. So you give them a contract that is in Arabic for them to sign, and they just sign it blindly because they're coming from a situation where it is so bad. It's like jumping out of a frying pan into the fire. So this is what actually happens. So the government needs to get involved through, I don't know whether through the embassy. I thought all ambassadors must have studied. They should know how to, be able to negotiate for their people. For us, we don't get too much help from the embassy. I don't know, maybe some, but for personally, with the few challenges that we are faced with these girls, the embassy has not been there really to help us. So in the end, it goes back to the government, really. What does the embassy supposed to do in such cases? If the embassy is not doing anything, then who is responsible for this? If the government is not able to curb those people that are, illegally getting girls here, then how do we have to confront that on the other side, so that we make sure, first of all, it becomes we channel it properly, so that we know there are some specific companies registered and licensed by the government that are responsible for helping us sourcing for employment outside Uganda. So whoever has to go through those companies, and those companies should have proper understanding of the kind of jobs these girls are coming to do. Not necessarily girls, even boys. I've seen boys also in the same situation. We're looking at girls now, but also boys are going through some hard times at some point. So the government should be able to, these companies that would be licensed by the government to do this job, should be able to do their homework properly. First of all, understand the conditions through which these girls will work. Secondly, understand the details properly of the contracts that they're signing. Then also negotiate on payments, really, because see, if you're bringing some, because see, when you tell someone in Uganda, like, because I remember in Uganda, we used to have a help at home, someone who was helping us as we grew up. This person was being paid about 300,000 shillings per month. Now, so if you met that person who's being paid 300,000 in Uganda for just doing some little homework, and you tell them, come to UAE, I'll give you 1 million shillings. They would definitely think 1 million shillings is quite a lot of money. But until when you come to UAE and sit here and understand that the job they are doing, the kind of work they are doing, they should be paid like 5,000 dirhams or 5 million Ugandan shillings. But they are underpaid. They are doing a lot of work and underpaid because, first of all, poor negotiations. They cannot negotiate for themselves, for starters. The people who negotiate for them have something in it as well. So you find the money that should have paid this person who hustles and works as hard is being shared by some people who are not actually doing the job. So as I calm down, because I believe we have a lot to talk about. If I have to come in, I come in again later. But I want to conclude by, calling out our government, because the situation is very serious. By the time we come to discuss it here, that means it's already gotten out of hand, and it's been happening for quite a long time. I'm not sure we are represented by the embassy here, the UAE embassy. If the ambassador or any representative was here, probably they would have to, give us some feedback as well about the steps they're taking. But I would call upon the government to put in place a system that would work, a system that will be able to negotiate for Ugandans to work abroad. Because I know for sure, countries like Philippines, for example, because we happen to work with so many Filipinos here. The Philippines had to have an arrangement with UAE on some things. The people, the girls that do domestic work have a standard payment. They have a standard way they are recruited. They have a standard contract they sign. It's not that anybody can just come from Philippines and do a maid's job. There has to be a process through which they go through the training. Then the contracts are properly stated. They are properly explained, so they know what they are into. If someone comes from Philippines to work here in UAE as a maid, they know what they are going for, and you cannot tell them to clean a 5-story house in one day. They would not do that, So their job is properly described, written down before they come to work. They know it. So I wish our government can do the same, engage the UAE government and the people who are responsible also through our embassy to understand the kind of jobs our girls are doing and how they can be helped to, have a proper guided contract that is favorable for both the employee and the employer. And also our girls should be, trained into, this is the last one, that our girls are not, sometimes you look at the way sometimes they behave also, because it is not always a one way. They cry, of course, they are being mistreated, but sometimes they also are not properly trained. They don't know, someone comes here to do a job, but they spend almost half of the day on TikTok doing videos, dancing, putting on their boss's clothes. You realize they lack training, they lack ethics, they lack, So we need to have, our government should maybe put on this, I don't know how they can do it, but to be sure, make sure these guys are trained. If you want to come to work as a maid, like for example, we have some maids who come from Russia. Russia as a country also sends maids here in UAE, but they are trained. They know what to do. They know how to handle everything. You cannot find, but before for our girls, you find them doing things that also you would not want, even if they're maids, you'd not allow them to do. I thank you so much for listening to me. There is a lot I could say, but I know time is not our best ally. So I would just submit that for now. Just in case I have to drop in again, I would do that. Thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you for putting us here.
All right. Thank you very much, Gordon, for that insight. And over to you, Ivan. Yes, Ivan Bwowe. I thought I'd gotten the name wrong, but sorry. Ivan, over to you. We are saying that the government of Uganda, following complaints of human rights abuses and poor working terms and conditions, of course, with the Ministry of Gender, wants to tighten its grip on external labor export companies with new regulations. We have seen the Employment Recruitment of Ugandan Migrant Workers Regulation 2021. There is a statutory instrument 47. It seeks, among others, to revoke the employment. I think you can maybe give us an insight into that. But also, what is the problem? You as a lawyer who has dealt with these issues, where is the problem? Is it that our girls are not properly trained? Is it that, according to Gordon, some of them are not trained, they do not know what, they just go because there's a job available? Or is it the government failing to, put in place laws and regulations? Ivan.
Thank you so much. I am Bwowe Ivan again. I have done, when I was doing my postgraduate in gender and equality studies, labor externalization and particularly combating trafficking of women and girls was my area of, was my research area. And even at my master's level, it is also my research area. I participated at helping in rescue of some girls, but also in analyzing the legal framework in which we operate. When I listen to Gordon, I get a feeling that there is a misconception about this whole business and the crime of human trafficking that comes with it. First, I want to clearly state that it is not only those that go not through the proper channels that are trafficked. I want to let you know that even those that go through companies licensed by government are trafficked in one or the other. For example, a licensed company takes a girl from here, and on reaching Saudi Arabia, what they were promised is not true in terms of salaries and in terms of welfare, but also they go ahead to confiscate their travel documents. At that point, that girl has been trafficked, even when she has been taken by a licensed company that probably followed all processes from Uganda to Saudi Arabia, or to Oman, or to the UAE. And having said that, is that we tend to have the narrative that those who do not go through the proper channels are the ones trafficked. It is just that those that go through the Scopus means are at a high probability of being trafficked than those that go through government licensed companies. But going to the question of the girls are not trained, I think that's to blame the victims. First and foremost, we have to understand the genesis of this entire business. Actually, it started and then they wanted to regularize it. We have to appreciate that government, the state, is duty bound to make sure that the welfare of its citizens are catered for. Actually, the biggest duty in this business lies on the state. It's the Ugandan state that has the capacity to negotiate on behalf of its citizens for the terms of its citizens out of the country. And Philippines has done it so well. The state is present in negotiations, and clearly the way they treat Filipinos is not the way they treat Africans and Ugandans in particular. So at that level, the state has an upper hand. But also, when you look at the push factors that in a way facilitate or encourage this business, it's actually mostly lies on government in terms of policies that would create more jobs, that would encourage investments here, so that our girls do not go. But I also want to bring a bigger picture in relation to the externalization of government, that even right here in Uganda, government is still struggling when it comes to labor rights in particular. There was a bill that I wrote about it in the article that was not actually, that was supposed to be fast-tracked to provide for sexual harassment, better protection of domestic workers here, and that has stalled in Parliament. But we also see our government working in shortcut kind of methods when it comes to legislation and policy on labor externalization. I want to assure you that regulation 47 of 2021 is actually no different in a way with what was repealed. And I wrote an article in the Daily Monitor that Ugandan migrant workers are not protected, clearly showing how hypocritical our policymakers from the Ministry of Gender and Labor Development are. The only new thing that is in the new statutory instrument, which I believe is illegal, just like the other one of 2005, that is statutory instrument number 62 that I also believe is illegal, that the minister has no powers to in any way regulate labor externalization. You find it that the only difference is that they are putting more restrictions on companies in terms of their subscription to be licensed. And in my view, that instrument, statutory instrument number 47 of 2021 has nothing to do with prohibiting human trafficking. Actually, at even a bigger analysis, you find to it that the guidelines that the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development shared with the International Labour Organization falls at least 99% under what they made as law. So we have a government that is managing the industry through use of shortcut statutory instruments that do not seek to protect any of these girls, that does not help mainly when it comes to the confiscated documents and the repatriation. The process is long to repatriate a person whose passport has been withdrawn. And on that level, they are also not doing their best, but they're also not negotiating for better rights. All we see from the Bank of Uganda and from the Ministry of Gender is the funds that come from the diaspora generally. And in my view is that whereas it works, but also who owns these companies? Who owns these labor externalization companies? Actually, what companies do here, they are just brokers. And so, whereas the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development is putting more restrictions on getting licensed, that does not in any way solve the challenges that are associated with the industry in terms of human trafficking. So it is my constant opinion that the girls have nothing. They are not responsible for policy on investment in the country. They don't even own resources to in a way to affect the operations of government. All they do is that you create for them an avenue, and when you create it, you must ensure it is safe. It has more to do with accountability and the role of the state towards the citizens. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Ivan, for that insight into what the government is not doing and how it should be doing things. Recently, the president met with the UAE people, even the Ministry of Gender. They have signed a couple of agreements here and there. They've really tried to show us that there's something they're doing. My question is, and it goes to you, Miriam, you have been, you're into, I always want to emphasize this because you're into activism. You're looking out for everybody. Now, the president recently said the government of Uganda is actually set to open a shelter in the United Arab Emirates. This is to shelter girls that get stranded in that country after being trafficked. We've heard what Gordon has said. Gordon has painted a picture of what it is or how things are going. Ivan is giving us a picture where we are lacking laws. But here we are, our president, our government is coming to sit down with these different countries to, come up with solutions, which look like they can be, solutions. But again, I want to ask, because Ivan, Gordon have almost answered my question. What is the problem? Where is this problem? Is it the government? Is it the girls? Is it the labor, recruitment companies? Is it a general moral decay that we find in those Arab countries or where they go to work? Where is the problem and who is exacerbating this problem? Miriam.
Hi, Greetings to all the panelists. I think, Lynn, the question you've asked is what everyone is trying to ask and look answers for. Where lies the problem? Who is dropping the ball? This opportunity, the channel for enabling the girls to go out there and get good employment where they can sustain themselves is a welcome idea to Uganda, especially where the unemployment levels are so high, especially for young people. So this is a good opportunity. This is a good opportunity for the country. This is a good opportunity for the households where these girls and boys come from. I think we shouldn't call them just girls and boys. These are adults. These are Ugandans who are able, who understand what they are doing, and they shouldn't be shepherded down. They should be able to know where they are going and their rights are going to be respected, and they should know that their country has their back. But people on ground are painting a different picture. Me and you, Lynn, we are, I think, part of Ugandans who every other day we see a video in coming from the Middle East, a distress call. Someone has been abused, sexually assaulted, someone has beaten to death. We have received dead bodies. The last time I checked on the record, there were like 50 people who committed suicide because of the distressful working conditions in the Middle East. That is a very high number. I don't know where the figure lies today. But why? Why, if the government is involved in this process, if the government is sending its citizens to go and get employed, and there are benefits for everyone, including the government, like Ivan said, the government gets a lot in repatriation. The other day, ambassador on this show was boasting like that the UAE sends $200 million annually. That's a lot of money, which you can't get in any product being exported in Uganda these days. So why not use that money got from there if the whole venture is profitable for everyone? Why not use those resources to put their conditions which enable all participants to have better living conditions, better working conditions? Gordon had spelled out that other countries just put the rules and regulations which have to be properly followed. Their governments go on ground to ensure that their workers, their citizens have good working conditions. And these workers, first of all, are trained on what to expect about their jobs. Are they trained? Do they have work ethics? Do they have the required skills? And what are they going to do exactly? Is that work spelled out? So that if it goes beyond what is stipulated in the contract, these girls have a right and a backing to say, no, this is not what I'm hired to do. So all those things should be in place, and it's the government to do that. What are the embassies doing? It's very disappointing that all over the diaspora, everyone will have something to say about their embassies. The Ugandan embassies are the weakest links in protecting the Ugandans in diaspora. They are never anywhere. They are there when there is a function, when there is a trade promo, when there is maybe Christmas party or independence celebration, but they are not there when people are in distress. So what we see is the government of Uganda benefiting from the hard labor of Ugandans working in diaspora, but we don't see the government doing anything to protect the rights of these citizens who are outside there toiling. It's very disturbing to see people being trafficked. The trafficking, I think, happens because we don't even have regulations at home. How do you traffic people from Uganda to the Middle East without the government checking you out? And these agencies which are licensed, are they monitored? CISA, what are they doing? Are they like annually monitored the same way we see the government monitoring CSOs? Can it put that energy, some of that energy to monitor like these employment agencies to see if they are doing the right work? So if an agency breaches the contract, they are held accountable and the girls are compensated as they should be. So for me, what I see is there is a need for organizing, first of all, the people, the ministries, the government should be held accountable, but also on the other hand, these girls, the Ugandan working in the Middle East, should organize and hold their governments accountable. They should give enough feedback to make us, all of us, other Ugandans and the interested parties, to hold this government accountable. They should bring us enough information to the legislators, to the human rights activists, to everybody, so that we hold this government, since the government is the sleeping giant here. It's the one eating the profits, but it's the one which doesn't want to do anything. I think we should gather enough pressure to make them do the necessary work that would ensure that our citizens are well catered for, that these girls, actually they should be sending more for me, because there is a lot of unemployment in Kampala. There is a lot of unemployment in Uganda, and today it's a global village. These workers, these girls and the boys, they shouldn't be ending in the Middle East alone. They should be trained and sent in other countries as well. In USA, they welcome nurses, they welcome teachers. In Canada, they take all health workers. In UK, they want truck drivers. We have a lot of opportunities if we organize ourselves and send citizen trained, skilled laborers to diaspora to work so that they can take care of themselves instead of driving border borders and suffering on Kampala streets. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Miriam. I still have issues. I'm sure you all do, because this has been a conversation that has been going on for as long as I have known that people, labor recruitment companies do actually take people to the United Arab Emirates. And it is the most dangerous zone for them, yet they still go. My question still, okay, not still, what has happened to humanity? Are there no international laws, international labor laws that these countries are violating? And if so, who is holding them accountable? Because we have seen numerous cases. There was a girl who was told she was going to work as a maid, a housemaid. When she reached there, instead they took her to a big house, and man after man after man was sleeping with her. They infected her with HIV/AIDS. She had nothing to go to. She had nobody to talk to. Where is, anyway, we still have issues with that problem. Where is the problem? You say our country, Uganda, has embassies and they're not helping us. But again, the president the other day sat down and told people in the United Arab Emirates, he said, guys, can you register with an association? And I promise to, us as a government to support you. He says the circle, he actually gave 100,000 US dollars in the circle, saying that you can borrow and start a small business here instead of going abroad. But he was also putting 50,000 in the association that is going to unite the migrant labor in United Arab Emirates. I don't know, is that a solution enough? Are we really doing enough in that area? Is that the best the government can do? Let me ask, we have Brendah, Namale, we also have Sarah. Oh, Sarah is here. Okay, great. I want to hear first from Brendah, and then we can come to Sarah. And then I want to get a picture of what is this? Now, if we start a circle, then what? Are we solving the situation? Because it looks like we have a problem on ground here in Uganda that actually goes abroad. Brendah, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you, Lynn. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Brendah, please go on. We can hear you.
I'm so pleased to be part of this discussion. because directly or indirectly, I've been a victim. And at one point, one day, I believe I will tell my story to the world. So I will not go off the topic that we are discussing today, but however, my submission would be whatever the president has promised to do is not going to help. It will not at all, unless he goes back and he does what other governments like the Philippine government has done for its workers. Set up rules, protect the Ugandans. These are the things that he's going to build a shelter. It is not working. I've worked in Abu Dhabi before, and that is how I got the opportunity to meet Mr. Gordon. And I had a few people working in the embassy. In my very house, I've housed girls who have run away from the very things that we are talking about. The embassy was not helping. So the only thing they tried to do was, there was a house that later they tried to rent out. And this you'll not hear from the ambassador. He will not come out to say all this. There's a house, and still up to now, that house is being paid by the embassy. So there's already a shelter that is housing, but still we are still having the cases. I think for us to clear out and help each and every Ugandan, because as Miriam has said, unemployment is too much back home. So why don't we set the rules once and for all to protect the Ugandans? To even, she suggested the training centers so that we train them before we send them out. That would also work. But first, let the government come in. All these associations is talking about the money. If they are collecting $2 million a year, as per the ambassador, what he said, and he can only offer us 100,000 only. I love numbers. Is that fair enough? It is not. And it's not about the money, because once everything is set as per the law and we are protected, the system will run itself and the money will be more. We won't even need the 100. We won't even need the shelter. Other than us saying this, saying that, saying this, saying, it is not going to solve anything. It is about the government sitting with this, the governments of the different countries in the Middle East, and they set the rules where we are protected. And let there be no companies in between, but it should be the government itself. I'm against the companies, because I did my research during that time when we were facing those problems. When I was having the girls, I kept asking which company, each girl, which company were you working? Did you come through? Which company? And each was coming from a different company. And if you're to go deep and do a research about each and every company, it has an upper hand somewhere. So why doesn't the government help us sit down, set the laws, and whoever wants to go out, there should be an office, government office, where without middleman, without any company, because at the end of the day, there are always problems in the middle people, the brokers. The companies are getting, and then some are at the country offices in the countries where they've gone to. There are also other agencies. So you find a girl or a boy, this person has been sold out twice or thrice. There are things which are so hidden that they don't bring to books. When Madam, and I'm talking on record, when there was an ambassador who was, she was Nimisha, members of parliament came here. They went to as far as one state and found human beings in prison in kind of, I don't know if you know how they small houses of hen, where they put chicken and then you go and pick, I want this one, I want this one. That is how bad things were. And once it was tabled in the parliament, she was called back. Facts are there. We know them, but we haven't found the right people to say them to speak them out to tell them to. So it is real, it is there, but no one, there is not, except when the government of Uganda comes up, sets the rules to protect the Ugandans. Nothing else is gonna solve this. That is my submission for today. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Brenda. That's very insightful. I'm glad to have Sarah Bilete. Sarah, I'm very glad to have you today. We are saying that Uganda currently has signed bilateral agreements with Saudi Arabia and Jordan, and they continue to say that the Labor Ministry is set to sign an agreement with Qatar sometime later. And negotiations for similar agreements with Kuwait, Oman, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain are still pending. Somebody says that while the bilateral agreements are ongoing, it's only just a beginning. And these agreements cannot offer concrete solutions unless the Gulf countries take a lead in reforming their own labor laws. So we have a challenge of Ugandan labor laws, and we also have a challenge of the Gulf countries' labor laws. We have an issue of international labor laws which are in place. Who is not playing their role? Fine, we are pointing fingers at our government. We are pointing fingers at the people that recruit these migrant workers. But who is not doing their role? I see here Ivan says the kafala system is a legal framework that regulates the relationship between foreign employees and employers in Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf states. It is, let me see what else to say. Please you can use the chat room as well. So it is in Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf states. It is a sponsorship system between employer and employee that gives the employer extensive rights and opportunities. Unfortunately, we don't see this happening. Sarah, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I was waiting for you to finish the framing of the question, and I'm glad to participate briefly in the diaspora show for the first time. I did some study that led to the framing of the Trafficking of Persons, the Anti-Trafficking of Persons Act in Parliament, and I looked at countries that have benefited from having their citizens, both trained and non-trained citizens working in the Middle East. I think the highest benefiting country is Indonesia. And what they did, they put in place a legal framework in the country that creates a labor commission in the Middle East. The labor commission is it's the government in charge of these labor relations. There are no middlemen, like Ivan was submitting. And the labor commission supervises the welfare of the workers and ensures that everybody's okay. In case of a complaint, the labor commission takes over. So there is no mistreatment, there is no harassment, there is no enslavement. And they measure a deal in professional, services, not like our agreements, which are for exporting graduates as maids. So if you are referring to government MOUs that they've made with the Middle East countries, how do you as a country train people and think that they are only fit to work as maids in other countries? is too degrading, it's too inhuman. It's unbelievable that you train your human resource and you export them to just work as maids. And you can sign such an agreement and you come to media center and announce that your graduates are going to serve as maids in foreign land. I think really it is pathetic. So we have a government that is reckless at that front. You know, I considered that announcement by Anita as really extremely reckless. So other countries are systematic. They consider the professions of the people. They tax and get enough revenue. Like in Indonesia, the labor exchange and the labor force working abroad is the highest foreign exchange earner. So we can make money out of it. After all, Uganda has no exports. Now we have resorted to exporting human beings. So we can arrange it, protect people's rights, protect their labor rights, and ensure that they earn proper remuneration for the work they are offering, and which is commensurate to the trainings they've received. I think to me that is the missing link. And unfortunately, the so-called middlemen, Brendah did talk about it. They are highly connected. They are the political untouchables. If you lifted the lead as who owns the labor export companies in Uganda, you will not go beyond the first family. You will not go beyond the powerful politicians in this country. And at one time when we were debating, pushing for debate, it was even rumored that the speaker then had her own company exporting these people in the Middle East. So that blocks even an opportunity for having an equitable legislative framework for protection of Ugandans, as well as, you know, earning income, but in a human way. So these people are in there, they earn a lot of money, they exploit these people, they are blocking the legislative process, and they don't care about what happens to these people. Just the last time I traveled at the end of November, I found chains and chains of women at the airport. I picked my phone twice to take a picture, but my heart was bleeding. You people, you should look at the face of these Ugandans. First of all, they are stranded in their countries. People live with no means to earn a living. Some of them have children. Some of them, their parents have educated them and they're supposed to help their parents also raise their siblings. To educate somebody, for some families, they sell all their possessions, including land. And then you don't have a job. At times your parents are old. They have nothing to sell to educate their children. They have no care. Then you find you're stranded, and this desperation drives you into extreme means. So the last two travels during COVID, to me, have been really painful. The first, in October, as I was coming from Nairobi, we came with a girl who had been arrested. She's a primary school teacher in Masaka, but because of closure of schools, she had no means of livelihood, and she was taken to Dubai, hoping to earn a living. But because of her education and enlightenment, she could not, you know, withstand the enslavement. She pushed back, and the Arab bosses caused her arrest. She was detained for 2 weeks. All her clothes were taken. Everything was taken from her, and the money she had gone with, she was not paid anything. And then she was deported with no money. How did we find out? At the time we were going for COVID testing, she just had the clothes she was wearing and the phone. So she said, how is she going to afford the COVID testing? Yet she has no money. She's a deported case. Being an activist that I am, I had to take on the people that were training at the, testing COVID at the airport then. They were still the private entities. I took them on. I said they should have exceptions for deported people. So they said they would test her. We arrived at 7. We left the testing center towards midnight, but they said they will test her in the night when all other flights have closed, because for them, they want to make money. They are private sector. She had nowhere to sleep, and she was seated on the furniture in the gardens and that shelter that was put up. So we raised for her some money to buy food. Of course, a little money. When you're traveling, you don't even have money on you. We raised for her little money to buy food and also get transport to maybe town where she can find relatives. She was proceeding to Masaka. And I hope, but also the money maybe could have helped her reach Masaka. I don't know, and I can't mention the amount. So we pushed for the Ministry of Health officials at the airport to find out where to sleep. They said they will show her a mat, and she had no lesson, she had nothing. I don't even know how she reached home. So the second time we are traveling, you meet all these kinds of challenges, and you're like, what the hell is happening in this country? Of course, Ugandans have been abandoned. Everybody's on their own, unless you are really high connected. Every citizen is on their own. Thanks to the private sector and privatization, the economy is somehow working, and Uganda seems to be a normal country. But when it comes to civil liberties of Ugandans, we are a corrupt or failed state. There is no place for redress. There is nowhere in all other countries. Deported people. The country deporting you takes care of all your costs until you reach home, including fare from the airport to your home. In cases of COVID, a country deporting citizens should give them money for testing to conform to the COVID measures on arrival in a country where deporting them to. But does Uganda push for these things to make sure they are taken care of? No. And once they reach Entebbe, deported citizens are supposed even to have their own check-in point at immigration. But our country is to whom it may concern. Nobody even bothers to know whether you are a deportee or not. You're on your own. So this is the fate of these girls. It's very unfortunate. It is very, very unfortunate.
Yes, indeed, it is very, very unfortunate. Thank you very much, Sarah. I see Sharon here, Brendah is saying, thank you, Sarah. Most people who are here are graduates. These are the ones that end up committing suicide due to frustration. And she goes on to say, we are exporting our future generation that's supposed to build our country. Right? Ivan Bwowe says, I usually take their numbers and give them mine at Addis or Dubai. Sophie is saying, thank you so much, Sarah. Ivan says, barely 3 weeks, you start getting calls. I can only imagine how that is. We have been seeing stories, people losing their lives, committing suicide. I still want us to have a conversation on the labor export companies. We are seeing that the more noise we made as a country, as concerned citizens, as victims, the government, came forward and said that, you know what, we're going to regulate which companies can export, labor. So currently, from what I have come across, that there are 216 licensed labor export companies in Uganda. But the Ministry of Gender banned 8 of them, citing numerous complaints by foreign laborers. Now, I will still come back to the question of, are we violating the countries that put our girls in trouble? Miriam says we should call them adults. Yes, they're adults, but they're still our girls. Are they not violating international laws at all? And shouldn't the International Labour Organization or the IOM, come forward and say, you know what, there's something going on here. Can we Can we work it out? Ivan, if you're there, Uganda is signatory to a number of international laws, international statutes. So are other countries. With all these things happening, yes, we might fault our government, and I still say there's need for more to be done. Why don't we hold accountable these countries? There were girls who were gang raped in India, and some of them died. Uganda. Can we not hold accountable these countries? Can we not evoke the international laws on them? Is there something that can be done there?
Thank you so much. We have to understand, Lynn, that usually international conventions are suggestive in nature. That even then they put much of the responsibility either on the hosting state or on the state of origin. So in this case, even within the international conventions, we see a pattern that Uganda as a country is not even trying to do anything to negotiate or to push for countries in the Middle East to actually, to the bare minimum, respect the international conventions. But also many of the Middle East countries are not signatories or parties to these conventions. There have been discussions, some join, some do not want to join, and part of it is that kafala system, that by the time a girl leaves from here, the person who is the probable employee has already incurred costs on that person. And therefore, if you want to quit, you have to do as they say. If you want to quit, you must pay them back their money they spent on you already, so that you, in short, buy your freedom. Are there gaps within within human trafficking as an international crime? Yes, there are gaps that need to be addressed so that we make this trafficking, even in this externalization business, dangerous. And that is work in progress. And hopefully the research we have done, the research we continue to do, and the proposals we continue to put forward, to some point they will be taken up. But also I want to mention that, as I earlier said, and I shared it in my article, that we also have officials here that are liars, that are perennial liars when it comes to the issue of addressing human trafficking in labor externalization, and in turn addressing the plight of our girls or women in the Middle East. You see, for example, and I challenge you to Google on the rules and the guidelines that were shared by the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development to International Labour Organization, and contrast them with statutory instrument number 47 of 2021. These guidelines are a beauty, oh my God. They are amazing. And yet, the statutory instrument is 120 degrees off the guidelines. So, but also that takes us to understanding the intention of our officials and our government in particular. I also want to note something interesting, is that we get distress calls about the women that are trafficked and girls. Why I insist girls, that because we have very many that are even below 18 years that are in the Middle East. Usually that fact goes unmentioned. But surprisingly, we are even lucky they can make distress calls, because statistics show that actually more men in the Middle East commit suicides. While the other statistic is women make distress calls and men do not. So we have to understand that this is a moral dent. This is a big dent on our moral compass as a society and as a country. And I think and I believe that we have a lot more to do here. There is a case that was decided by the High Court where a person applied to be declared a trafficked person. That person was from Lebanon, and he went through mostly what our girls go through in the Middle East. And the High Court here in Uganda, in a case, determined that that person was trafficked. However, a person who has moved from Uganda to the Middle East, even through the next of kin, cannot apply to be declared a trafficked person in Uganda. A Ugandan. This was a Lebanese. So I just want to focus you to the very many areas that need change and adjustment. And probably we can explore means of petitioning, other bodies like the ICC, because human trafficking or slavery, depending on how you choose to take it, is a crime against humanity. Enslaving people is a crime against humanity. But in focus of labor externalization, I think we can explore means in how we can draw the attention of those international justice systems to see how best we can help. Otherwise, a lot needs to be done. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Ivan, there for that insight. We have Sophie Kansiime. Sophie Kansiime, I'm relaying from the two working in the United Arab Emirates. And as a woman who has been working there, how did you leave Uganda, for example? What was your transit route? How did the journey go? I would like for you to give us a picture and tell us how the working conditions are there, what the situation is like for you there. Please, Sophie.
A very good evening, Lynn and everyone. Thank you for inviting me on this platform. I've been in Middle East almost coming to 6 years right now. I started my journey in Doha and I moved back here. So when I came in, me as a person, I had a relative here. So this is how I came in. I came on the visit visa to hustle, to look for a job. And I got my job in Doha. So I had to go back to Uganda and everything was processed. I worked in Doha for 3 years, then moved back here because I had got another job. I had been transferred here. So I worked here. But working here, yes, I'm in my professional, I'm a therapist and working with one of the hotel here in Abu Dhabi. But I have seen how we ladies, actually it's not only ladies, it's not only us. I believe all of us, we have been tormented in one way or another. Mostly when you come and you don't come with the qualifications. You just come to get a job over here and you find yourself in the field that you're not supposed to be in. But because you still need to have money, you still have to send money back home. You find yourself, you get any job. And as you get any other job, they still don't respect you. However much they know that you are educated, you have your books, you are a graduate, they will still take you as a person who's not educated. Why? I believe this is being built on how our government is really communicating over here, like how it is not protecting us enough. That you will find me a graduate with accountant, but they are pushing me to go to do a housekeeping job. And when I start as a housekeeper, when I start as a cleaner, to come from there for me to be on accountant level, that my dream is done. It's gone like that. And another thing, I have seen people really suffering. Our embassy has really not helped us a lot. It has not done anything for us because as I speak right now, there are girls who are at the embassy. They have been trying to look for a help and no one has helped them. No one is there to help them. And this is where I come in and ask, where the shelters they have been telling girls? Not everyone that knows. So I would love our embassy to really work on it, because if it brings us down, we will not be, no one will value us because they already know their government, it will say nothing. Their government will say nothing. We can do anything and they will go away and they will say nothing, and so nothing will happen. But if you touch on Indonesia or if you touch on Philippines and they raise their voice, it goes back to they go to their embassy, they are scared for that. Because when they come to talk, when they will know that they will face the labor law, they will come and talk to the labor law. So they never mistreat them in that way. Secondly, for the trafficking, a lot of trafficking is really happening right now. Apparently, I have been told by some of my friends, because one of her sister was trafficked in the same way, that we people who come here, we don't have humanity in us. We come here and we start lying to the people back home. I can get for you a job. I can get for you a visa. Give me 9 million, give me 6 million. And when they come here, they don't have jobs themselves. They don't have jobs. They don't have jobs themselves. They are feeding on these people by collecting money from them, lying to them that they will give jobs. What happens? Right now, there is one of the house, abandoned house in Ajuman, where they are keeping these girls. When you come, they put you on the taxi, you are driven to that house. You are not stepping out, they are not eating, they are mistreated. I'm getting all this information from one of the friends who went to rescue her sister. So I really want our government, I really want our embassy, the same way he stands and talk on this $2 million that we send back home, to really help us. It's such a pity that you can go to the embassy and you will not get anyone to help you. It is really such a pity. Some girls, they come from Uganda direct to their house. Let's say if they are married, they will go direct to their house. They don't know any street. I think it's 2 weeks back, I was going to Dubai, and actually I was with Gordon. So I was going to Dubai. We met this lady. She didn't know where to go. She was looking for a help. She was telling us that she came out from the house. The employer beat her. And when she asked for the passport and so on, they gave her, they didn't in the first place, but she had to call in the police. That's when they gave her the passport, but she didn't know where to go. We found her and she didn't know where to go. What she was saying, I'm going to Dubai to find my sister. She does not have, she had a phone, but the phone does not have money. She has no credit. All she has is her small bag with her, a phone with no credit, but she doesn't know where she goes. She knows that I'm going to Dubai to find my sister. Another thing, sometime back there are people they deported. When they deported these people, they were not given their passports. They were not given anything. These are people who are on the residence. These were the people who are on residence. Some of them, they got them in their room sleeping. Some of them, they got them when they were coming from work. These people, they have raised their concern to the international human rights. Since September, they have not been heard. How our embassy could allow our people, this is the same things that I was talking about. Our embassy allowed the people to be signed with the paper, just the paper, because the passports they were still with the employers. They tried to get the passports from them, they could not get it. So what they did when they were tired of staying in the jail, they make them to sign the paper and they take them to the airport and they go. They left everything here. We have not seen our government coming out to say anything about this. We had ladies in there, ladies who were working, not saying that they are not working. They were working, they had their jobs. Not only ladies, we had also the men who were also there having jobs. We have not seen how they have helped these people. So we really need our government to put rules to protect us, because if they were protecting us, all this were not going to happen. And also for our embassy to really follow up for their people. There are those times we really need help. You cannot tell me the 8 girls I'm talking about, they've been staying there for about 3 days right now. And they are still there. There is no one to help them. And they don't know where to run to. So that's all I can inform, I can say right now, that we really need to help these people who come, and we need protection. Thank you, Lynn.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sophia. Kansiime, I beg your pardon. You see, it's good to have these conversations. Gordon, I see your hand up. I don't know what, but I'm imagining. I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm in a very noisy place, but okay. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you well, Lynn.
Yeah, Gordon, please, you have your hand up.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot once again. After listening to all these studies, it gets emotional somehow, but we just have to be strong to make sure we pull this off. But again, it's quite bizarre. It's very bad. I don't know. Sometime at some point, because Safina just talked about the time we're going to Dubai and we meet this girl. She actually, it's not that she didn't have airtime. She didn't have a SIM card. She had a smaller phone without a SIM card. So I can imagine if she didn't meet us, what would have happened to her? Where would she go at that point? She didn't know anywhere. I'm not even sure she had the money. We sat with her in the car we were driving in until Dubai. Then we had to give her to someone who had to take her somewhere else again. So the situation is that bad. But again, I don't want to believe that all the UAE nationals or people who stay here are bad, in bad situations. There are some people who are going through hard times, but there are some people who are doing very well. There are very good paying jobs here where people are comfortable and they're being treated like human beings. We are respected. We are given what is due to us. So it's not that everyone, because see, there is this picture that is somehow being painted out there about the Middle East. You know, it makes people fear even comes the Middle East. You might think in the Middle East it's a no-go zone, but here, yes, there are some isolated cases where people are mistreated in families, and also at some point we needed to go deeper and find out what could have happened. Sometimes even our girls are not that you cannot take it 100% from them. Somehow they contribute to some of like, for example, the case where Madame Bidete talks about. She talked about that incident where the girl came here, and the people she was working with had to take her to jail. Now, when you hear that story, you definitely blame the family. But then, if you go deeper into what you think, why would this family behave this way? Because these people here are not very bad people like someone might want to portray them. They're also people, they are human beings. But the only challenge is they also sign some documents with those companies that hand over these girls to them. That this girl, when you give her to me, I will keep her passport. And they sign it. And this girl does not know that this was in the terms and conditions, that you have to hand over the passport, you have to eat one time in 24 hours, you have to work 6 hours out of 8, you have to work 24 hours out of, So all of these conditions are put in the agreements that these families sign with those contractors on behalf of this girl, and the girl does not know. So it goes back to, how does the government arrange this, prepare this? Because it is a very good venture. It is helping our girls get jobs, help their parents at home. Because we realize that many people that are doing those jobs here are doing a lot of work back home. Some of them are building their parents' houses. Some of them are paying fees for their siblings and the kids. But we don't want to take it away from them, because it helps, it's good. But how do we make it, how do we, work out on the conditions so that there is a proper arrangement, so that we know that the government approved that this should be the terms and conditions this girl would have to have with the employer. The government has to be involved. Again, another question that I've always been asking myself is, what is actually the job of the embassy? What is the embassy supposed to do? Because in this case, in all these cries, the embassy is on a side. The embassy is not coming in to help in any way. I remember the other time when Sophie talked about it, when some people were deported. Some of those were residences. They had visas, they had MSIDs, but they were deported. But we never had a statement. Nobody came out to explain what happened. How were they deported? What was the reason? What did they do? What was the evidence that they did what they were saying? So when the government keeps quiet when such things are happening, there is despair. We don't know where to run to. So I think if we can reach out, Miriam, you're here, you help us, since you are there for advocating for these guys and even us who work abroad. You have to do something about it. We have to put the government to a task to come up with, like other countries do. Actually, very recently, I just realized also Kenya is having proper arrangements with UAE about how their girls are treated, how their citizens are employed here. We can choose to pay a fee if that requires, if it requires funding, but we make sure we don't have to see our girls go through this situation. At some point, they end up into prostitution because they run out of houses, they don't have what to eat, they are on the streets, nobody's helping. What else do they have to sell? What they have. So it ends up that way. And it's not a very good ending story. So I would love to submit from here. And if you can let me, because I have some errands I was running, I need to go run them. I was still at work actually. So if you can let me go, I would be able to follow up and see how it ends.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Gordon, for that. It's very good to know that there's somebody out there at least who, is looking out for our people. Thank you very much. Definitely, we'll catch you some other time. Miriam, we have heard from Sophie, we've heard from Brenda, we've heard from Gordon, and we understand all those, even Ivan himself, even Sarah has highlighted that our embassies are the weakest. Our embassies do not help its people, you know. But why? I'm sorry, but why? I don't get it.
Ian, it's very unfortunate, like Sarah said, that Ugandans are on their own. We have a government. A government is supposed to protect its citizens. That's its first mandate. People have rights, and they pay taxes. They put in place this government, and the government is supposed to watch over everyone. Whether you are a criminal, whether you are a good person, whether you are outside the country, whether you are being abused. But how do you do that? Or who is gonna do that? Today, our government, if you look at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it's like a guest wing of NRM. I mean, it's just like somewhere where they put failed politicians and people they want to get out of Uganda because maybe they have, they want a job for them, and they are not like career diplomats, most of the ambassadors. And I don't know whether that's an obstacle, because even when the embassies have like career trained diplomats, do they have capacity to do anything that they're supposed to do? And what is that? What is our foreign policy? What does it say about Ugandans in diaspora? What does it say about exported laborers, Ugandans who have gone to work abroad? What type of relations do we have with these countries where we make memorandums of understanding to send people to go to work to? And do we go into details, or just we do window shopping and just make political statements and just get done with it, like what we see happening with the Uganda and the Middle East? What is the Ministry of Labor doing? Like Ivan and Sarah said, the laws on ground are the weakest, and the policymakers themselves have conflict of interest. They are the ones benefiting from this process, and they don't want to put up stringent regulations which would protect the girls because they would interfere with their profit-making business. So in that case, who is supposed to come in and help the stressed citizens? Ivan said that should we go to court? But the courts are not the implementers. They're gonna make rules, the ruling that hey, this is bad, but who is going to implement and put down instruments which can help people, so that when you know you are Ugandan and you're stranded in the Middle East, there is an agency which can come in to defend you if you are abused at work. Everywhere at work, by the way, even if you are inside Uganda, sometimes the employers can really abuse workers. So what are the mechanisms put on ground to address such abuses? Where are they supposed to go? Such instruments should be on ground, and there should be some institutions which can handle that. A Ugandan should know that if I'm abused, I can report ABCD and my case be heard. Like they said, some are deported without any hearing, without any defense. So, and I'm sure sometimes most of these people are not paid. So if your employer thinks that deporting you would benefit him, he's gonna get away with your money or whatever. Even the agencies can connive in that. They can just blame you for anything and kick you out after defaulting on the payment and say, hey, you misbehaved or whatever, and deport you. They have your passport, they have your life. If you are a foreigner and someone has your passport, they have your life, because that's the only document that can stand in for you and your government and your life, because where you are a stranger. If you are an exported laborer, if you are a migrant and you don't have citizenship in that country, or you are not a permanent resident, your passport is your life. So if someone has your passport, they have your life. And in such a case, where do you go for redress? Who is going to back you up? What is your backup position in case things don't work the way they are? Sometimes you can be recruited a position, you can be trained even to do that job, like Sophie, who's a therapist, and she can go to a hotel to do therapy, but you might find the working conditions are not so good, or maybe you are not in a good shape to do the work that you're expected to do. But how do you address such a situation when you don't have institutions which can handle that, which can mediate on your behalf? And can you just be kicked out without any hearing, without any pay, without any remuneration? So at the end of the day, how can we had that we need jobs, yes, and Gordon said that the working conditions are good for some people, but not good for others. And according to the evidence we have shared and facts, you find that countries which put in effort to protect their citizens, they have good working conditions. And the missing link is that Uganda is not doing enough to provide such support for its workers abroad. And it can be done, it's very possible, and it's very easy. So why is it not being done? And who is gonna ensure that such a thing is put in place? Is it activists like Ivan Bwowe or Sarah or CCG or Lynn with her microphone as part of the media? Who's gonna tell the government to do that needful? And I think we should rally around that. How do we move forward? How do we change the situation? Whether you are Sophie or Brendah facing the conditions that are going on, or you are Gordon, you are a leader, you are there and you see your citizens suffering and you feel you can do something, or you are an activist like some of us and you feel something needs to be done. What is there? What can we do? How can we do it moving forward?
Miriam, thank you. So how do we then move forward? How then do we move forward as a country? Because this has become such a major challenge to us as a country, first of all, and internationally. Everybody's going to tell you what's wrong with Ugandan labor, migrants. How come we've seen stories world over, okay, that they're reporting about Ugandan laborers in the United Arab Emirates going through these problems day in, day out. It looks bad on us. Already we're seeing that our citizens are on their own because, well, the embassies are not helping that much. That is one. Two, we are seeing that even if we make laws, they're there, they're wonderful on paper, according to Ivan, but in implementation, it is nothing. So we still look bad. So then what? As we wind up, I want to pick each one of you's mind. As we wind up, so what's the way forward? Let me start with Brendah. Brendah, what do you think we can do to change?
Hello, good evening again.
Yes, Brendah, go on, please.
I think we're already on a status. We are already on what we need to do. It has been very hard to find such. I know we are in different locations right now, but if we are having a platform right now, like for example, Zoom, we are coming up and talking about it. This is a step. We've, just like a child, we start from crawling. So I believe we are on the start. We've started. We just need to make more of this. For example, here, because Middle East has very many countries, Qatar, Jordan, Saudi, Oman. If we can have more of this within each and every country where we meet and then go have representatives. For example, here we can go, me, Sophie, and Gordon, try to go to the embassies, put our requests, show them what we have on ground. For example, the stories that we have and what does the law back home says, and then force those embassies to hear us out. Because what is happening right now, I'll base on what is happening right now. what is happening is each individual is going on their own to the embassy. That is one problem I saw. If you go one, or even if you go a clique, but when you don't have an organized group of people, these girls or men who are stranded need a backup point to go with. Because here they respect, if you have a very good job and all that, they can have time to listen to you. But if you're coming from, we call it a chiyumba, and you just go to the embassy, there is a way. So they need we need to have something, we need to organize something. For example, me, Sophie, Gordon, and advocate and add other people who have the nationalism within them, who have the Ugandan heart, the Uganda heart, and then form groups, and then can go and have organized meetings with the ambassadors or the office of the ambassadors. However, when I go back to what Miriam was talking about, if you're to do an analysis, the ambassadors that are put in place are the ones, they have an attachment there to the fast families or something like that. So, but that should not put us off. Otherwise, if it was to put us off, we wouldn't even be here. So my suggestion is, let's have a one voice as Ugandans, and then go as a group, because what I realized with the Filipinos, what they did, how they did it, is how I think we should follow their footsteps. They had to organize themselves the way I've told you, and then they had to go to their embassy, and then had to present what they wanted as Filipinos here, and then eventually the embassy and the country had no say. So it has to be a joint group work to start off from. And I feel this is where we're starting from. That is my submission for now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brendah. Gordon, are you still with us? So that we can let you go completely, because we have about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. That means we shall be signing out at the top of the hour. So if you're there, please, I just need a minute of your concluding remarks as we wind up on the show. Gordon, if you're there, please. Okay, if Gordon is gone back to work, let me hear from Ivan. Ivan, in your conclusive remarks, what then do we do?
Thank you so much, Lynn. One thing that we should do is that we should keep the pressure on, more so when it comes to our government. At times they need to be reminded to do what they're supposed to do, which is a lazy format of doing things. However, we cannot just sit back and not pressure them, but also clearly mentioning to them that they're not doing enough. As whether they adjust and do enough, that is for another day, but at least we would have played our part as citizens in bringing to light what is happening. But also, we would also want to demand better in terms of addressing the push factors that propel the ladies and very many Ugandans to make those desperate journeys from here to the Middle East. And how I wish we can address by using our politics and policies and address the issue of unemployment. Because even then, that role cannot be delegated. The role to create an enabling environment for businesses to have more jobs cannot be delegated to other countries. And therefore, my approach is everything that can be done, let us keep the pressure on. Let us keep the foot on the gas. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ivan. Sophie, in your concluding remarks, how then do we move forward?
I will not be different from Brendah nor from Ivan. I will say we have already, me talking about it, it means we have already noticed it and we have already started the move. So we can get representative from within us who are already on the ground, who already know what affects us. We go to the embassy, talk to the ambassador, our ambassador, and address our issues. Also, as Mr. Ivan has said, we really need to put our government onto a pressure, because if we put the embassy under pressure and is not really reporting or is not really reaching out to the government, everything, whatever we say, he keeps it over there. It's not because that he does not have the cases. He has the cases already with him. At the embassy, there are so many cases pending. There are so many people that goes on a daily basis to report there, but probably maybe he's not reporting back to the concerned people or to the government. So as we're putting pressure on our embassy, we should also put pressure on our government to make sure that whatever they say, they implement it. Let's not only talk, but let's do the implementation also. Thank you so much, Ms. Lynn.
Okay, thank you very much, Sophie. I would love to end with you, Miriam. I think Gordon has left, as he said. So, Miriam, we have come to the end of the show, and we see that it still remains a huge challenge for us as a country, for us as people, for us as Ugandans, and especially because these affect us directly. It could be a sister, brother, friend, relative, anybody. I'm sure many families we know have had these stories. So then we have failed to figure out why this is still going on years later. We still understand that the government is doing ABCD, but what then? What more can we do? How best can we do this?
Lynn, I think Ivan, Sophie, and Brendah have said it all. It's good that we are starting the conversation, and this platform will continue to be available to all of you, Sophie, Brendah, Gordon, to push this cause forward. This is what we stand for. This is civic space, and it stands for civil liberties of all Ugandans. But I think we still, to feed into our previous discussion, we still need to find ways as Ugandans in diaspora to engage the government. Think about the diaspora as another constituent, as another group of Ugandans, a big region that needs its attention more than what they are doing. Our biggest export today is no longer coffee. It could still be coffee, but in future it's human resource. Uganda has an advantage of having the youngest population in the world. If these people are well trained and skilled, they can go in any part of the world, whether it's USA, Canada, UK, and get good employments and be beneficial to their countries back home and to their families and themselves in particular. So we need to put emphasis on what mechanism is the government putting in place to assist the community, the Ugandans in diaspora. Everywhere, by the way, it's not the Middle East. Everywhere you go, you would find some pockets of distress. Ugandans who are in distress, and it's the same story. Embassies are not doing enough. The advantages that some countries have, like in Europe and in USA, is because these countries have, working governments, they have human rights, a lot of awareness on ground. So there are boundaries you can't push. If someone is so distressed, even the government comes forward to really protect the rights of such a person. But the countries where there is some laxity in those areas, like in the Middle East, that's where you find the Ghanaian government has to do a lot to protect its citizens over there. And I'm sure it's for the benefit of everybody. Like we said, there is a lot of money coming in from there. So that's a beneficial ground. But like Brendah said, and Sarah, first of all, and Ivan said it, we need to control the unemployment back home in Uganda, reduce it to a certain level, because now we are having like brain drain. We've said these are our trained graduates. These are professionals. These are human resources that would be benefiting Uganda back home. These are people who would be building industries. These are people who would be innovating, but we end up shipping them to the Middle East, end up in houses cleaning instead of being in Kampala and being in industrial incubation and doing work which would benefit Uganda and lead us to development that we badly need. So first of all, we need to solve that crisis, unemployment, so that a person who is not, who is really deciding to go abroad goes with a choice. You know, you have a choice to work back home. So if conditions are not so good, you don't have to risk your life to work in the Middle East where you know you're gonna be abused, but it's a life or it's a do or die for you. It doesn't have to be that. So we need to solve that problem back home. And secondly, I think engaging the embassies is not enough. We've seen all over that the embassies are really don't have capacity to do anything. Either it's because of the government back home and they also don't have big mandate to do much. So the people we need to push at the legislature, the MPs are there to protect every Ugandan. And the Ministry of Gender and Labor is a sleeping giant. What are they doing? So I would call upon Sophie, Gordon, and Brendah and your colleagues, please step out, go beyond the embassy and lobby the parliament. Go beyond the embassy and go walk to the Ministry of Gender. Go to the president's office. In Uganda, the only ministry that works is the president. That's the unfortunate side of things. But if he's really interested in sending the workers to the Middle East, let him also walk the talk and protect them. So don't feel shy even to walk to the president. Just do whatever it takes to make sure that things work for you. And we will be there to support you where we can. And we also look forward to a situation which really works for all of us. Thank you, Lynn, and all the panelists. I think that's all for me.
Right. Thank you very much, Miriam. Thank you very much, Brendah, Gordon, Sophie, Ivan. I'm really glad we had this conversation. Brendah says for sure we need to address these different offices. Yes, indeed. I think we have started a conversation, Miriam, that we need to carry forward and bring our leaders to account, bring them to face these challenges that continue really looking bad on us as a country. And being the diaspora, sure, I think this is really timely. And the more conversations we have, I think the more impactful we will see out there. So I thank you all for making time. Happy holidays for you who have started the holidays. Ours will start next week, perhaps. And definitely, I wish you the very best. We'll catch you again next time. Bye-bye.